All right, guys. So now that BAZAR has, some of the best looking affordable 1.5x and 2x anamorphics, my channel's getting bombarded with comments and questions on which one do I get? What do I need? What do I want? Cam, tell me what to buy. Well, I guess BAZAR kind of created an issue here by, giving us, again, some of the best options, like really quickly. It's created a dilemma for some of us. No, this video is not sponsored by BAZAR. So let's go over it. Let's go over our two options. Obviously, you can apply this to pretty much any anamorphic brand or anamorphic sets, obviously, but we're just going to go over the BAZAR options here. So option number one, we have the BAZAR Katos 2X full frame anamorphics. These guys just came out. These have been glued to my Blackmagic PYXIS. You'll see why here in a second. Our other option is the BAZAR Remus. These are the full frame 1.5x anamorphics. These I love putting on my Lumix S9, but when it comes to the Lumix X5 2X, I love to use both sets. So let's go over. It's really simple, but it gets kind of complicated because it all comes down to just like personal taste, really. Which, a quick note to all the camera manufacturers, please just give us open gate. That should be a standard by now. You guys will see why. Let's get into it. All right, guys. So currently we are on the BAZAR Kato full frame 2X. You'll see right here, we are in the open gate full frame. So this is reading out the full 3x2 sensor. Okay. The full frame image. A lot of digital cameras out right now cannot do this. The only Sony cameras that can do this are the Sony Venice cameras. The Burano doesn't even do open gate. It's kind of crazy. Sony, please bring it. So the Blackmagic cameras will do 3x2 open gate, and all the Lumix cameras as well. So this video is going to be broken down to two things. One, kind of the necessities behind stretch factors. And then the second point will come down more to just your personal taste and what you prefer. So in order to show you the big win and losses on 2X versus 1.5X, let's go and put this into the full frame 16:9 mode. So anybody that has a camera that cannot do full frame open gate, the 3x2 mode, this is the image you're going to get. You can see how much wider this is compared to the actual full frame 3x2 mode. So when you go to the movies and you see a film shot on anamorphic, majority, like 99% of the time, they have this final crop here. This is a 2:4:1 crop. Pretty much every film you've seen over the past 5 decades or however long anamorphics have been existing, this is pretty much the format you've been seeing majority of the time. So again, this is in a 3x2 open gate mode. Let's see what the issue is when you go to the 16:9 mode. Once we do that final crop, you see we're having to crop all those sides off. Some people might be confused. Once again, let's go back to our full frame open gate mode. Look at all the vertical height above my truck and below the tire there. And then let's throw on the final 2:4:1 crop. So you see all we're losing is a little bit of the edges. Once we go back to the 16:9 crop, not only are we having to crop in on the sides even more, but you're also cropping in on the top and the bottom as well. So 16:9 full frame sensors actually aren't giving you a true full frame vertical height. So when you're shooting on 2X anamorphics, you're having to crop all of that resolution out. And anamorphic's not as much about, gaining resolution, but it's more about, getting that vertical compression with a horizontal width. So again, on 16:9 sensors on 2X anamorphic, you're losing a lot of the edge characteristics because you're having to crop it in post. On top of that, you're also losing a lot of the vertical height. So you'll see once I go into the Super 35 mode, look at the top and the bottom here. When I go back to the 16:9, it's pretty much the same exact vertical height. So again, any full frame 16:9 camera that you're using and you're pairing it up with anamorphics, you're actually getting Super 35 height, or at least similar to that. So you see when we do our final 2:4:1 crop, we're just losing a little bit on the edges there. Now, this is where I really like using my 2X anamorphics, is when I have a camera that's capable of doing 3x2 full frame open gate. Because you see the final crop, we're not losing that much on there. So we're getting way more juice out of the anamorphic lens, anamorphic juice. Now, the cool thing about the Blackmagic PYXIS is there's actually a 6:5 crop mode on here. You'll see the vertical height's actually the same, but what it's doing, it's basically doing that final crop for us. So that's with our final crop marks off, and that's with the final crop marks on. You see, We're not having to crop it at all because it's doing in camera. So 2x anamorphic on Blackmagic PYXIS cameras is amazing. Yes, you could do this also on the other Blackmagic cameras, but the PYXIS does something special here where it actually gives us all the anamorphic de-stretch options. The other Blackmagic cameras currently do not do that. Now, let's go over 1.5x anamorphics. Anybody that's shooting on 16:9 sensors and you don't plan on ever shooting full frame open gate, because, you know, other camera companies are gatekeeping it, then 1.5x might be more for you. All right, guys, now we're on the BAZAR Remus 1.5x. So before we move on, I'm going to change my squeeze factor here back to 1.5. So you see this is a 3x2 open gate. This is on 1.5x full frame, okay? This is without our crop marks. Now let's do our final deliverable crop. There you go. You see what it's done is just barely on the top and the bottom. That's all you're going to have to crop out on here. So this is what's cool about 1.5 is it's a little bit more friendly across the board depending on what camera you're using. Now, let's go and put it into that 16:9 full frame mode. So again, this is everybody who has a camera that's not capable of open gate. This is the crop we're getting. So you see this 16:9 1.5x image looks closer to the 2x 3x2 open gate image. Again, after I show you all of this, we'll go over kind of, you know, what you're going to get from the two. But let's get back into this. So with our final deliverable crops, you see we're having just to crop off a little bit of the sides there for that final 2-4-1 crop. So you guys can see, while it's really hard to answer if you should get 1.5x or 2x, one, I don't know what your taste is. I don't know what you're shooting, so I can't answer that. It comes down to, you know, the camera package that you're using. If you're someone that's shooting on, you know, 16:9 sensors and you think you're going to be kind of glued to that format for a while, personally, I would go with 1.5x. There's a lot of 1.5x popping up on the market now. Personally, I would go with the Remus, and that's not just because we work together a lot. It's more because I love what they're doing. They're actually giving us a lot of character, and they're still trying to give us sharpness at the same time while keeping it super light. So I'm filming on the Lumix S9 right now, and I absolutely love that camera. And I usually pair it with this Mofage Poco rear VND adapter. That package is super light. So anytime I'm rigging it to the car or anything like that, it's kind of crazy what you're able to do out of such a small, tight, lightweight, you know, capable package. When you have to do that final 2-4-1 crop, you're going to get more anamorphic character of the 2x than you are the 1.5x, no matter what camera you have. But you guys saw when you're shooting 16:9 open gate, you're having to crop a lot of the sides out. Cropping those sides off on a 1.5x anamorphic, you're going to lose a lot more character, versus 2x naturally has more character on it because, you know, the physics of it is you're destroying the light and the glass way more. And so by the time you do that crop, you're still going to have a tiny bit more juice out of a 2x than you will have a 1.5x. But as you can imagine, from you saw from the side of the PYXIS here, monitoring your image off a 16:9 sensor, off of you know, a 5-inch monitor, 3-inch monitor, it's a nightmare. It is almost impossible to do. When it comes to the taste of anamorphics, kind of a divisive topic because you have a lot of people like in certain Facebook groups who there's a lot of prudes in there. And if anamorphics aren't perfect from edge to edge and you know, super sharp, they're, you know, bitching and complaining that, you know, oh, that's not usable. That's not a good anamorphic. But in reality, if you go and study any of your favorite anamorphic films, they're not perfect. They're far from perfect. The reason back in the day, you know, they were trying to perfect lenses was because of the fact they were shooting on film. We're not shooting on film anymore. The lucky ones are, the cool ones are. I'm not a cool one, so I have never shot on film. I really want to, but one day. Anyways, so with all like these perfectly clean, digital, sterile, unlifelike sensors, like they make everything feel like sandpaper and just like, ugh. I love anamorphic for that because it adds character. I'm rough around the edges. All the stories I want to tell are rough around the edges. There's grit to them. That's what anamorphic does for me. But on top of, you know, adding that character, it's also has a whimsical aspect to it. The way it throws the bokeh out, the way it kind of just like softens the image a little bit. It's beautiful. It's romantic to me. So when it comes to taste, 1.5x, you're going to feel like you get a little bit more sharpness and clarity out of them, I would say. And that's strictly because, you know, physically they're stretching the image less. When it comes to 2X, you're going to get the whole shebang. You guys saw it. What's interesting when it comes to the BAZAR lenses, again, this isn't a BAZAR sponsored video, or this, they don't know I'm doing this. Like, they have no input on this at all. When it comes to these BAZAR Katos, they somehow got the sharpness very close to these BAZAR Remus. The A set Remus were softer. The B set are way more improved on sharpness. To me, they're sharp enough, especially when you close down. That's another whole different topic on Anamorphics, is you don't need to shoot them wide open. Like, people are like, oh, I want T2 fast. It's great that we have that, because when we need it, it's amazing to have that option. But when it comes to Anamorphics, there's a bunch of physics to it. You don't need to be shooting that fast. Go look at any of your, again, go study your favorite films. A lot of those people were shooting at T4, T5.6, T8, everywhere in between that. Anyways, overall, the BAZAR lenses, somehow magically, the 1.5X still have a buttload of character on there. So I still kind of favored the Remus a little bit until the PYXIS came out, because that 6.5 crop mode, it just makes it beautiful to work with 2X Anamorphics. And that's kind of what is glued in this system. You're not going to pull this camera out unless, you really have a story to tell, or if you have true intentions to, create imagery, kind of makes sense on why I would use 2X Anamorphics a lot on this system. But then when it comes to like my Lumix S9, that camera's more about convenience and run and gun and compact form factor. So the Remus paired really well, but I intermingle all that system. If all I had was a Sony FX3, they do have 2X Anamorphic support now. But still, if you're someone that never wants to use an external monitor, I would do the Remus. If you're someone that uses a 5 to 7 inch external monitor, you'll be totally fine with the Katos. But just remember, you're going to have to crop a lot of that out. If you crop a lot of that out, you're going to get a little bit more anamorphic character, charm, and juice out of 2X versus the 1.5X. But when you're shooting and monitoring, the 1.5X is going to be a lot easier on that Sony camera than it is on the 2X. So hopefully that answers everything. I'm sure everybody's still going to freaking bombard me with that question, but it's, again, I can't answer it for you. You guys have to answer it for yourself, because I don't know what the hell you're shooting. It's a real simple answer, but there's still a lot to it, and I don't know what you guys are shooting. So, yeah, that's all I got for y'all. That's it.